We want to advance the kingdom, but come on, let's do it with excellence. Let's do it proper. We can't be coming here mediocre and thinking like, but I'm doing it for God. Nah.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the No Money, More Plants podcast. In today's episode, I'm talking to Ntobeko Mjijwa. I hope I'm saying that right. A Cape Town-based artist. Please introduce yourself to the listeners.
My name is Ntobeko Mjijwa, born in the Western Cape. I grew up in the Eastern Cape. I did my higher primary, even tertiary studies in the Eastern Cape, and also studied in Western Cape. Got a degree in fine arts, majored in painting, sculpture, and printmaking. I have a diploma in theology. I'm married to a wonderful wife of mine, Sipogazi, and I have a daughter who's 8 months. 8 months old. I'm a teacher by profession. I teach grade 1 to 7, and I'm also a poet and a writer. Yeah, that's me.
Yo, you wear so many hats, Ntobeko. That's amazing. That's amazing. Unlike most creatives, you went and studied for your craft. Did you always know that you wanted to be an artist?
Not really, but I remember when I was in primary school, kids will say, or teachers will ask, what do you want to be when you grow up? I never knew how to answer that question. It was kind of weird for me. I felt like when other kids were like, I want to be a fireman or policeman, whatever. I don't know. As a kid, I was like, how would you want to be that? Why don't you want to be you?
Yeah.
But at the same time, my father taught me how to draw, So I really took into drawing, and I kept a lot of sketchbooks to a point whereby I was even not paying attention in school. And my father had to sit me down and say, listen, dude, I know you love this drawing thing, but you need to pay attention and also in reading and writing as well. And when I finished high school, because I went into a practical school, I did motor mechanics, medicine, physics. So I thought, because I'm doing these subjects, clearly I am going to be an engineer. So I went to varsity. I did mechanical engineering for 6 months. I was like, nah, I don't like this. This is this is not me. I feel like I'm struggling here. And then I told my dad I want to drop out and study something else. And my father was like, okay, cool. Whatever you want to do, I'll support you. What is it you going to do? And a friend of mine, Sebs, is a radio personality. He's like, this dude, I got an intern for people who want to do ceramics and design tiles for a year. Do you want it? I went for that for a year. When I was done with that, I submitted my forms again at the university to do language studies. My father took the form and sent it to the art department, and I ended up in the art department, and I loved it. I was like, okay, cool. This is what it is.
Wow, that's really amazing, hey?
Yeah.
Sure. It's very seldom that Black parents, and I'm not, I love them with all my heart, but it's very seldom that Black parents are like, go and do art, or even just putting your forms into the art department. That's
insane. Yeah, because like my dad was the only one who was supportive and understanding, but my extended family, they didn't get it. I remember every time we would go to my grannies for a family gathering, I was always being asked, oh, what is it that you're doing again? Isn't this for white people? How are you going to make a living? Like all those kind of questions I'd explain all the time. It's not like that. It doesn't work like that. So. But my dad, I guess because my dad, he was very artistic himself. Like he played the guitar, and he was self-taught. And he was a musician. He had a group dating back in the late 80s where they do sort of iskatamiya, like the Black Mambazo, and he loved them. He had vinyls and vinyls of them and CDs as well. So he was very artistic himself. I guess he understood, and also he's the one who taught me how to draw. I guess he was like, you know what, he's good at this. Why not like allow it or allow him to go with it?
And I think also like now that they have the opportunity, as like our parents, now that they have the opportunity, it's actually the right time where there's bursaries, there's NSFAS, like it's the right time to sort of take a chance with your child if for those opportunities
Yeah,
that you didn't get.
yeah, yeah,
Mm.
definitely,
No,
definitely.
it's really cool what you did. It was very woke. It was a new age parenting there, that what he did.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? My dad like didn't care much about my schooling as long as I'm passing. Like that part, he was like,
Mm.
"Dude, whatever you're doing, I'm doing well. Let me see your report." Like he was very involved. Like he was very involved. Like in my education in terms of the end result. Even helping me with the homeworks. I remember helping me with homeworks in primary school and stuff. But he didn't care much what I did. But as long as I'm doing it,
Yeah.
that was his like his attitude. Yeah.
And I think everyone should really have that type of attitude. Like especially
Yeah.
I'm sure you as a new parent
Yep.
are in that same mindset.
Yep, definitely. I mean, we started reading for Melo already. Although she doesn't understand, but we point things out to her, you know. So
No, that's really cool. What would you say the core message of your art is?
yeah. So my main core of my like the message, especially each and every artwork that I do, um, without being commissioned by clients, my aim is to bring out the biblical worldview. What do I mean by that? The biblical worldview is very broad, but the main themes that come through that is it needs to be beautiful. It needs to show beauty. It needs to point out truth. It needs to show truth in its making. And then the third one, it needs to speak to the current status quo for the happening, what's happening around me in my personal life, in my society, in the culture that I'm part of, or in the world in generally. And then the fourth part, it has to bring about, how can I put this? It needs to bring about awareness of how the world functions and how I view the world or how I see the world.
That's quite interesting because I think or maybe this is just my opinion of the arts world, that many people see Christianity, especially from the arts, as restrictive and
Yeah,
like not as beautiful as was what you were describing it as. So
yeah,
how do you fight for that? When for example, if you have something on exhibition, or if because you said you also do rapping and poetry,
yeah,
how do
yeah,
you bring that across, that Christianity is not restrictive in the way that
yeah,
they see it? How do you do that?
yeah. So I'll go back in 2012 in my final year undergrad, because when you're doing fine art, in your final year undergrad here, there's an exhibition at the end, and you must choose a theme that you're gonna work on and create like eight artworks that are gonna be hanged at the end, right? So what I did was I think I was trying to find the theme and I was just struggling until I came across Zixim's book, uh, Ways of Dying or Many Ways of Dying. And that book deals with death, and that it sparked my imagination, and I was like, okay, I want to look at death and in terms of what is death. And if death was a person, how would death look like? Or how would someone compensate? Let's say if you were to die and death will come in person to talk to you, like, hey, I'm coming to fetch you right now. Like, how would you argue a case like you're not ready or you want to go? Like, so I looked at death in different ways. I looked at death first in a cultural perspective. How does my culture within the Xhosa people, how do we view death? I looked at the culture. I look at death globally as a multi-billion-dollar business, and how insurance companies market their insurance by using death. And also, I looked at what do different religions say about death, right? So, in all of that, in my research, I came to a conclusion that only Christianity that says that death will be the last enemy to be destroyed, right? Therefore, that being said, should we fear death? Yes or no? So I was playing around that, and my culture venerates death, and there's also fear around death. You can't talk about death casually. If you do that, you're bringing like sort of like yashola, if I could put it in that way, or you are, I don't know how to say it in English.
Yeah, I also don't know how to
Yeah,
translate
you know what I
that.
mean?
Yeah.
But there's that fear and that veneration around death And then you look at, I looked at Sanlam as well. Sanlam had a pamphlet that said, "We cover you from death." But I was like, really? I understand that you cover the funeral day, but I don't think you can cover death. You know what I'm saying? So I looked at those things. And I remember when the exhibition started, a lot of people came around and looked at the work like, yo, this work is too dark. What is this? And then some people were like, but Ntobeko, I thought you were a Christian, bro. What is this? What is this gothic stuff? I'm like, dude, this is not gothic. I'm looking at the phenomena that we're dealing with as human beings from different perspective. And my perspective is from the biblical worldview, from a Christian perspective, that death is not will be the last enemy to be destroyed. You know what I mean? Death is not in charge. Death is more like a servant or someone taking orders as well, but death itself. So people like were amazed by that, and like they looked at my work differently from there. Like, wow, I never thought like Christianity can be viewed in this manner. Like I thought like you guys must just do like crosses and angels and whatnot. But I was like, nah, man.
Yeah.
Even my supervisor then was impressed. It went to a point of like I don't know who told the news. Weekend Post came and interviewed me and took pictures of my work. I had a full page in the Weekend Post in 2012 of my work, and it was just crazy how like I would even sometimes meet people in the street who would be like, I remember this other guy I was passing them, like, that's the guy's work I was telling you about. I was like, whoa, okay, I didn't know that this went this far. You know, so I always strive to make sure that like whatever I do, first of all, is beautiful, and secondly, is truthful, and thirdly, it engages the culture that's around me. So yeah,
what you did was very radical, and I can see like why it would have created those waves where it makes the weekly post and things like that. Like I can only imagine what that would have meant for you, especially as a graduate doing work. Yeah, that's really brilliant.
Also, jumping back to the part of the question about me as a rapper, like all those people always ask me, dude, like what is this Christian and you are rapping? Like that doesn't make sense. And I always say to people, listen, rap music and hip hop culture, it's preachy. That's what it is. It's preachy. It preaches sex. It preaches drugs. It preaches bravado, money, pride. That's what it does. So what's another preacher in the midst of the whole lot of preaching that's happening? So I always say to people like, when you think about the hip hop culture, being a Christian and a rapper, you fit perfectly fine in that culture that's preaching. So every rapper is a preacher. The only difference is what is the sermon about? What are you preaching about? You can be preaching sex, drugs, money, whatever the case may be. I choose to point people to Christ. So there shouldn't be this thing of like, but you're a Christian, you shouldn't be rapping. I think that sphere of hip hop or rap culture invites that kind of dialogue or debate, if you will.
And I think there's two things that I feel about. Firstly, Christian rap needs better rappers. Like, yes,
and they are. Believe me, they are. It's just that you won't find them on the radio. And also, another thing I need to add on to that is that I feel like people around, sort of some Christian rappers, they need to be honest to them, telling them like, my guy, I really, really love you, but I don't think you can rap. And we lack that. We lack a lot of that, of telling our friends and our brothers and our cousins that who are Christians want to rap like, my guy, I get you that you want to do this thing, but I don't think this is for you because clearly you don't sound right.
They're depending on the grace.
Yeah, we want to advance the kingdom, but come on, let's do it with excellence. Let's do it proper. We can't be coming here mediocre and thinking like, but I'm doing it for God. Nah.
No, I completely, and I've been thinking about a lot is just how different forms of, so I don't know if you're into YouTube much, but I've been like, I'm quite interested in YouTube, and I realized everyone is basically a teacher. Like most of the channels, they're either teaching you how to be a better photographer, how to film, how to dress better, and like everyone is actually teaching. So in a sense, like everyone should have either become a teacher or like a marketing agent because of the way you just choose your medium. And I think I agree with you that the fact that a preacher is basically a rapper just choosing a different sermon.
Yep.
So yeah, I think there are many similarities within, like, with Christianity and with the arts that we are not always aware of. What is your favorite medium of, expressing your art, whether it be like oil paint or actually like between
Yeah.
rapping and the visual art?
Yeah. That question is so broad because it depends at a specific time. Like, what do I have around me? What am I using? Like, I enjoy using oil paint, but oil paint is very expensive. So most of the time, I don't have oil paint. I have acrylic or I have charcoal or pencil. So it depends at a specific time. What am I using? Or if I'm doing work for a client, what does a client want? Does the client want me to paint in oils, or does the client want me to paint in acrylic, or the client just wants me to use charcoal or pencil? So it depends. But my favorite, though, I always go with oils, because oils you can always, like, it takes longer to dry. You can always go back to it. You can do a painting over a month, a period over a month. It doesn't dry quicker. It still remains wet than acrylic. Acrylic, you need to work quicker because it dries quicker. So yeah, I most of the time like oils. Yeah, that's my kind of medium.
Nice. And do you like impart, because obviously a school, because now you're saying you are working as a teacher at a school. Obviously the budgets are not the same. Budgets are not the same. Do you sort of change it up for your students, or is it mostly going to be the same sort of medium that they are using?
So I'm blessed to be working in a private school, and they have a lot of they have a lot of money. So that's not even an issue. Even the stuff that, like, I was shocked because first time teaching in private school, I was given a leeway, like, hey, dude, just give us a list of materials you want to buy for your students. I was like, what? Like, yeah, a list of materials. I was like, oh, okay.
Wow.
So I went crazy and asked all kinds of things, and I got them. So yeah, so I make sure that my students, like, I introduce them to stuff that I know they will probably get introduced to in first year varsity. Like already now, I introduce them to that stuff. So because I want them to, even when they go to high school, to go with a bit of knowledge than the other kids will be coming from other different schools.
I know. Must be nice. I think I was listening to a podcast where the lady's like, she had an Adobe internship year type of thing, and she's like, I wasn't thinking about how much money I need, like how much money I need to make at the end of the month, because I knew I was gonna get the Adobe internship was giving me a monthly salary, and I could just create. And what you're saying about like a private school makes me just think about like having to think about money and how you're gonna pay for certain skills. Like how you're gonna pay for your rent makes you. Does it do that? Does it because now obviously you're not a full-time artist, but in the you were, did it make you worry like I can't be painting at peace because I have to think about my rent?
Like that's the reality of it. It did, like, especially when you have to take care not just of yourself. You know what I mean? You're thinking to yourself, okay, cool. I have a wife now, and I'm the one who pursued this woman and told her I love her, I'll take care of her. And now she's here, and I'm a full-time artist. How do I navigate sort of the anxiety, if I can put that with the anxiety of like, okay, cool, I need to buy material worth of like 2,000 rands, right?
Is that how much material costs?
Yeah. And believe me, that 2,000 rands, it can only cover, let's say, 5 cubes of paint and maybe 2 canvases, and then that's it.
No. I see why your family members said this is a white person.
Exactly. So now you think this, okay, cool. If I spend this much on this material, I better sell these artworks. And if they don't sell, there's gonna be like a lot of stares inside in the house. Like, okay, dude, like you spent 2,000 rand, and then what? Like now we need this, and now we need that, and we don't have. And now you're waiting on this gallery to get back to you, or you're waiting on this client to get back to you. All kinds of things, man. So it's really, really tough. Like I always tell, I remember at some point I was asked to speak with the university students first years where I was doing when I was trying to do my master's, to speak with them about being a full-time artist. I asked them first, how many of you here are gonna be full-time artists when you're done with your studies. Only 3 students picked up their hands. The rest were like, not about that life. And I said to them, if you don't love this thing, if you don't love this thing with all your heart, don't do it. Because this thing is gonna frustrate you if you don't have like an income that's constant to help you with your work. Because what's gonna happen is if you create all these artworks and they're not selling, no one is buying, you're gonna hate this thing and you're gonna hate what you do. But if you love what you do, regardless how things turn out, you'll constantly push yourself and try to find ways of selling your artwork. And I said to them, don't allow galleries to tell you what to paint. Don't do that. Because when galleries tell you what to paint and how you paint, and they are the ones who are going to put the price on your artworks, right? And then it turns out it happens that your works don't sell for whatever reasons. They're going to drop you. Now your artworks were like 50,000 or 60,000 each, and they drop you. Obviously, you're stuck with these 20 artworks that you don't like because you don't like what you were doing because you were told what to do. And then you hate your profession, and now you're going to drop the price of your artworks, and no one wants to buy your artworks. So they're like, okay, why did that gallery dropped him? And why is it dropping the prices? Something dodgy there. That's how it works in the art society. Oh. And then you start with artworks. I remember when I came to Cape Town first time in 2013, I approached a couple of galleries and I showed them my portfolio, and they wanted me to change how I paint and paint in a certain way. I told them no. And doors were closed in my face. And it was one gallery that took me in to a state-of-the-art gallery. And I said to them, listen, I don't want to change how I paint. I love how I paint. This is who I am. And the lady said, okay, cool. We'll put your stuff in our website. They did. The first week, I sold 2 artworks. Within a month, I sold 4 pieces. I ended up signing a contract with them for a year. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. Now, think about someone who was told to paint this way and nothing sells. They'll hate that stuff. And they will even hate their own profession because it's going to frustrate them. So you better love what you do. And also, at the end of the day, if you have a family, at least find a work. I know some people think it's a cop-out or you're selling out. You're not selling out, bro. At the end of the day, your family is your family. You know what I mean? Find something that's going to bring an income for you while you paint that just keeps you going.
Yeah. No, I can very much attest to what you're saying because I took some time off last year because I was like, oh, I want to be creative. Yeah. And it really puts a strain on you. Not that I'm not saying that, like, but it does put a strain on your relationship. Yeah, and even if the other person doesn't say it,
you sense it.
Yeah, I think it's more about the person who's taken the break because I could feel like I'm like, oh, we used to do this thing. Now we can't do that thing. Like it's all those small little things where you feel like you are being selfish. And so it's really, really hard. Yeah, I think being single, and not that I'm like an advocate for singleness or marriage or whatever, but I think being single, at least even if you're struggling alone, if you're not gonna eat
exactly. And to add to that, like when I was single, I didn't care. Remember, I rented out an apartment, a single room apartment. All I had there, because I rented it out for purposes of using it as a studio. All I had there was a desktop computer and a sponge that I slept on that I folded up when I wake up in the morning. And the whole room was filled with paintings, canvases, and all kinds of things that I needed as an artist. It was just for me a working space. I didn't care much about how it looked because I'm like, hey, bro, I'm single, so like it is what it is.
No, it's very true. Like honestly, I think people do it. Like obviously, people look into marriages and they're like, yes, this is what we want. But you're like, it's a lot of sacrifice. And you feel bad for that, for doing that to somebody else. But it is what it is. They chose you. This is what they like. I just want to talk about the fact that I think, what would you advise like young artists? How do they go about trying to make money with their craft? Like what are like 3 income streams that you can say, like what you mentioned the art gallery, but what are like 2 more that you can say that you do?
Now there's so many like avenues, which is nice. Another one is there's this thing whereby now you can loan your artworks to different corporate businesses who own offices. You just need to Google it and find how it works, whereby you rent out your artworks to them for their offices. That's number two. The third one, make sure that you have clients, people who constantly say to you, hey, paint this for me, paint that for me, paint this. And don't say like, I don't paint that, I don't paint stuff like that. You're gonna go hungry if you are that kind of a person. Like I paint all kinds of things, from self-portrait to people asking me to paint, like, can you paint my child's room? Can you paint frogs in my child's room and trees and whatnot, like stuff like that? You know what I mean? Don't say I'm focused on this kind of work as an artist. Do whatever that comes your way that you can do as an artist. That's thirdly. And fourthly, make sure that you create your own exhibitions. Like I did that in 2018. I spoke with there's a gallery in East London. I went to them and said, listen, how can I partner with you guys and exhibit my work? And we sat down, talked about it, exhibited my work with them. And also in 2021, I had another solo exhibition. What I did was I spoke with my couple of friends who are artists. I said to them, listen, guys, I want to have an exhibition, but I need you to help me to hang the work, to run around for certain things that I would need, and also to do the invites and do the posters. And all my friends rally around me, did that for me, and boom, I had an exhibition. So always make sure that you don't wait for galleries to get to you, but you also do your own stuff.
That's amazing. That's really cool. What legacy do you want to leave behind with your art?
Yo, like I want people, when they look at my work, and be able to say like, this guy really, really showed us beauty. He really showed us the truth. And he really communicated with society, and he really, really sparked conversations around certain things that we can still talk about, although he's gone. And for me, I always do that. Like whenever I will focus on a series, I'll do themes. Like the last theme I did, I focused on the violence of language. What do I mean by that? I was looking at how we use certain words or certain language, and that language itself is violent. And I was looking at when we speak about foreign nationals, people from Zambia, Zimbabwe, or outside of South Africa, the word that was popularized in South Africa was amakwerekwe. You know what I mean? And like back at home, they know that I don't like that. Whenever someone says, my sister says to me, I saw amakwerekwe. I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I don't know what you mean. It's like, okay, the Zimbabwean guys. I'm like, yeah, that's who they are. Because I feel like that word is violent in such a way that it dismisses not just them as people, it dismisses their culture, it dismisses their story. That's why it's easy to kill someone when you use a word that you don't care, or that, because that word dismisses them. That's why the violence in terms of surrounding xenophobia, it's easy to attack and kill people because you don't recognize them as a people, but you recognize them as the word, as a thing, right? So there's violence around that. Even when you look at also this newspaper, Daily Sun, I don't like how Daily Sun reports most of its news headings. It's misleading, and it's also violent in a way. You know what I mean? So you will see a headline that says "Hambani makwerekwere." You get what I'm saying? And you're like, okay, what that's all about. When you read the article, you realize, no, man, there's nothing that's correlating to the headline. But it's so inflammatory that in such a way that it's violent, and it doesn't end there. Even you find that, like, even when, like, as I was a student, like in the department I was in, it was white dominated environment, from your lecturers to your students. Us as black, were few of us, right? And you find that sometimes the way the methodologies used of teaching is violent towards us. It doesn't consider that we are not West English speakers. We are even like fourth or third English speakers. And you find that how they use language, sometimes it's violent in such a way that it blocks us from learning, and it blocks us from understanding what we are doing here. and then we end up opting for, I just want to pass. I just want to pass. When you leave that space, you can't do anything, you know.
Sure.
So I was looking at it in that sense, like the violence of language. How does it apply in within the cultures we're living in different places in different ways? So I always trying to look at the theme, and whenever people look at that, I want them to be like, yo, this guy had a point here. You know what I mean? And that can spark a conversation that doesn't end here, but it goes on and on. Sometimes I'm invited to give talks in Stellenbosch, you know what I mean? And give talks around the stuff that I do. And I remember one of the Africana ladies asked me this, like, how do you deal? Because I was looking at Gerard Sikoto's work and comparing it with my work. And what Sikota stood for around the late 80s in South Africa, when apartheid was still coming in, all that stuff. And then we're talking about racism and all that stuff. And she was like, but we're in a situation whereby as white people, we're not allowed to speak because we're like, because of my skin, I'm white, I've got nothing to offer, or I can't say this to a black person, I can't talk. What do I do? Most of the time, I just shut down and don't say anything. I said to them, listen, I'd rather have people arguing and debating and engaging each other than having people keeping quiet, because
and pretending like it doesn't exist.
Exactly. I'm like, when people stop talking, using words, they use another language, which is violence. So there's no excuse of saying, nah, I'm gonna keep quiet, because anyway, I'd rather have you arguing with me.
No, that's a big legacy. I really hope that all your artwork will leave the truth, and will invoke discussions about social injustices such as xenophobia and stuff. So that's really cool. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Please share if you have any podcast recommendations with our listeners.
Yes. So number one on my list is Bellwether podcast. It's on Spotify if you have one. So Bellwether, it's by Kuda and Mukundi. These are students at UCT. They both from Zimbabwe. They're also part of the Student Y, which I'm part of, and they have this wonderful podcast that is very engaging and it's very interesting. It's called Bellwether. Yeah, Bellwether without an A. The weather is without an A.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, and then the second one is Intentional Conversations by the Living Legacy Movement crew, Lax and Marvin Kimani. It's an amazing podcast. They also have vlogs of the podcast on YouTube. Just look for Intentional Conversations or look for the Living Legacy Movement. You'll find their stuff in there. They're also on Spotify as well. And then I also enjoy the C.S. Lewis podcast with Alistair McGrath. I also enjoy Russell Moore podcast by Russell Moore. I also enjoy the Midnight Miracle podcast by Talib Kweli, Yasin Bey, and Dave Chappelle. Yeah, but it's on Luminary. It's in their own app. It's called Luminary.
Okay, so it's Midnight what? Sorry?
Midnight Miracle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got those down.
And then the last one is The Bridge, 50 Years of Hip Hop by Nas and Miss Info.
You listen to a whole lot more podcasts than I. No, I'm impressed.
Yeah, but also I don't listen to everything. I just choose what piques my attention. And then I just follow that one, and I just listen to that one. Because you can't keep up with these because they
Yeah, they said podcasts are like something like candy. Everyone has them, but not all of them are good. I'm like, yo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. That's why for me, I've been thinking about, like, people have been saying to me, Ntobeko, Brian, you start your own podcast. I'm like, I don't know. Because I don't know. Like, I feel like as much as I think I'm capable and I'm willing to do so, I've got so much to say, but at the same time, I feel like, but there's so many podcasts. Like, I don't know. So people are still trying to get me to start one, but I keep on telling them, I don't know. I'll see. But yeah.
I think definitely do it. I think South Africa's we always wake up late. For example, before the people are like, start an Instagram page. Only later do you start a YouTube account, whatever. There's so much scope for discussion. There's so much scope for like creative.
That's so true.
So definitely, if you feel moved by the spirit,
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
do it. I think people would love one on like dads forever.
Yeah. So I even wrote on that. So I wrote a book in 2020, 21, but I haven't published it yet.
Please publish it.
I haven't published it yet. I did speak with different publishing houses and all that stuff. But the way my book is, people, I feel like I'm way ahead of my time because my book is not focusing only on a topic, right? It's not a topical book. Every chapter is different from the first one. Chapter 1 is different from chapter 2. Chapter 2 is different from chapter 3. And I did that intentionally because the book itself, each chapter can become a book itself. But what I did sort of like give a summary of what I feel like there was so much I wanted to say, and I just wanted it would be a long book if I wrote it at once. So I just broke it down into these chapters, but it's just snippets of what I want to say. So, but some of the publishing houses that I spoke with were like, your book is we see what you're doing, but we don't think, you know. So I'm like, now I'm even thinking of going like publishing it myself, but I'm also
Amazon Publish. They're pushing that a lot. So
it's called what? Amazon Publishing?
You can publish your book on Amazon. I don't know how it works exactly.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah, definitely check it out. Thank you so much. Please pimp yourself out. Where can people find you? Where can they buy your work?
Cool. You can find my page, my artistic page on Instagram is called UN_Art Studios. Yeah, that's where you can check my artworks. You can find my Facebook page as well, but there's nothing much going on there, just me posting my daily stuff on Ntobeko Mjijwa. So yeah, that's where mostly you can find me. If you want me to do artwork for you or any kind, just inbox me on Instagram. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening. If you found this podcast helpful, please remember to like and share it. See you in the next one.